Meeting of the Finance Committee to order for November 29th, 2021. I recognize a quorum. Will the clerk please call the first agenda item?
Reappointment of Brian Madden of 15 Madrid Square, number 5, to the Brockton Community Access Board for a 3-year term ending in November 2024. Invited Brian Madden.
Is Mr. Madden here? Going once, going twice. This is a reappointment, councilors. Is there a motion?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city
Second.
council.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably to the full council. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is a vote. Item number 2.
Reappointment of Julie Castor Diaz of 13 North Byron Ave to the Board of Assessors for a 3-year term ending in November 2024. Invited Julie Castor Diaz.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We put you on first to find out if Mr. O'Donnell is mistreating you in any way. If he is, then we'll obviously take appropriate action on the next item.
He's been great. I'm learning a lot.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Razak.
I would like to just congratulate Ms. Castor Diaz, because I believe you're first at City Hall. We had a conversation once that you're the first Haitian American woman to be here employed at City Hall.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Very nice.
For the Board of Assessors, yes, thank you.
And with that, I make a motion to send this back to, with a favorable recommendation to the full city council.
Second.
All right, motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is a vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3.
Reappointment of John O'Donnell of 30 Rock Meadow Drive to the Board of Assessors for a 3-year term ending in November 2024. Invited John O'Donnell.
Good evening,
Councilors.
Mr. O'Donnell. Any questions for the Chair of Assessors?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's one of the most painless meetings you've had, Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilor Lally.
I would like to move that we take item number 7 out of order.
Second.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded to take item 7 out of order. All those in favor? All those opposed? Item 7 is now taken out of order. Would the clerk please read the item?
Ordered that the following name sum be and the same is hereby appropriated as the same was submitted by the mayor as follows. Appropriation of $3,591,312.63 from stabilization fund, $2,289,781.86 to the police fiscal year 20 personal services other than overtime retroactive payment of $265,904.67. Police fiscal 20 overtime retroactive payment of $28,585.09. Police fiscal 21 personal services other than overtime retroactive payment $609,572.43. Police fiscal 21 overtime retroactive payment of $21,845.51. Police fiscal 22 personal services other than overtime $1,333,359.52. Police fiscal year 22 overtime $30,514.62. And from the ARPA fund, $1,301,530.79 to the police fiscal 20 personal services other than overtime, retroactive payment of $16,212.80. Police fiscal 21 personal services other than overtime, retroactive payment $215,104.48. Police fiscal 22 personal services other than overtime, $641,213.51. Police COVID bonus, $429,000. For purposes of funding the Brockton Police Patrolmen's Association contract, this appropriation provides funding for 3 years, July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2022, of a 3-year contract. Invited Troy Claxton, Chief Financial Officer.
Mr. Claxton, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. As with the other contracts that have been provided to you for funding, this is the result of good faith negotiations between the Police Patrolmen's Union and the city, and it is both affordable and I think financially sustainable.
Councilors,
Motion.
any questions?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the
Second.
full city council.
All right, there's been a motion made and properly seconded to recommend this to the full council favorably. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is a vote. This will come into the council on the 13th of December for a final vote. Next Monday is another finance, but the December 13th will be the final vote. And for those of you who are here in this item, you won't disturb us if you leave, so you don't have to listen to the rest of the agenda items if you want. So thank you all for coming.
Night.
Madam Clerk.
Ordered that the common necessity and convenience of the inhabitants of the city of Brockton require the laying out and acceptance of Sheridan Street extending from the end of the 1944 layout northerly, a distance of about 1,355 feet, more or less to Kathleen Road, and for that purpose, it is necessary to take an easement for highway purposes and layout as a public street or way of said city of Brockton. Invited Patrick Hill, interim DPW commissioner.
Councilor Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'm asking that this matter be postponed until the next Finance Committee meeting.
There's been a motion made and properly seconded to postpone to the next finance meeting. All those in favor? All those opposed? Postpone to the next finance. Mr. Madden, you are recommended favorably, and the actual vote on your reappointment will be December 13th. Thank you. You're welcome, sir.
Hey, Brian.
Item number 5.
Ordered that the city council of Brockton hereby authorizes the creation and operation of a municipal light plant, including a telecommunications system as allowed by Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 164, Sections 36 and 47E. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, and Megan Bridges, City Solicitor.
Good evening to both of you, and Mr. Clarkson, if you have a presentation.
Have some introductory remarks, Mr. Chairman, and City Solicitor Bridges is here as well. As I noted in my certification letter, this request before you tonight is the first step in a multi-step and long process for the city to be able to be a provider of broadband. What we're asking you to do tonight is to not complete the process and to not even offer or weigh in on whether or not, from a public policy standpoint, this is something good for the city. What we're asking you to do tonight is to simply take a vote so that we can have that dialogue. Because of the lengthy process outlined in the memo we provided you from Attorney Nick Scobo, votes have to be taken by the city council in 2 successive calendar years, and a vote needs to be taken by the voters of the city in order to create what's called a municipal light plant. But that law is used for municipalities that want to provide broadband services. The reason why we put it before you near the end of the term is because of that restriction that it requires votes in 2 successive calendar years. And with the now certain advent of significant infrastructure funds from the federal government, we're trying to be in a position that should we want to create some sort of public entity to provide broadband services, we will be able to do so. And so if we wait until after the first of the year, as I mentioned, a subsequent vote would have to be taken in 2023, and we want to be ahead of the curve in terms of having projects and initiatives ready to go when the infrastructure funding comes. So I know there will be lots of questions about, is this a good idea or is it not? And both the solicitor and I welcome that robust dialogue. What we're asking you to do tonight is just really to allow us to begin the discussion about whether or not this is something that is a good idea for Brockton. I did provide you in your packet that memo from Attorney Scobo, just to give you a little texture on this legal resource. That firm, Ferreter Scobo and Rodefeld, provides some form of counsel services to most, if not all, of the municipal light plants in the Commonwealth. So it's their area of expertise, which is why we reached out specifically to this firm to really lay out a roadmap for us as to how we would proceed. So I think, given that introduction, I'll ask the solicitor to provide some additional thoughts, and then both Solicitor Bridges and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Hi, everyone. Good
evening.
evening. So as Troy mentioned, he shared with you this memo that is very digestible, and I think his words were roadmap, and I think that that is a very accurate description. And tonight, there is no legal or financial obligation that is being asked of you in your vote of support for this initiative. It is to open the door for an opportunity. As Troy mentioned, a second city council vote is required, as well as a vote of the general populace. So it could be a special election, it could be on our normal election, but this is the first step in a very lengthy process over what could be a very exciting project, providing broadband as a municipal utility owned by the city of Brockton to its inhabitants and business folks who are located here. So I am happy to answer any questions, but I thought Troy's summary was very succinct and excellent.
Councilor Rodriguez, you filed this, so you get to speak first. If not, Councilor Azak wants recognition.
No, actually, I'm going to share the mic with the council from Ward 7. I want to hear what she has to say.
Councilor Azak.
Thank you. So I understand very well, what was presented to us. My only question is, having this come before us as an order, why isn't it stated that, why isn't the wording stating that this is like the first step? Because here it says that we're authorizing the creation and operation of a municipal light plant. So I'm all not against this. I just think that the wording we should start out with correct wording with the order.
That's a very fair question, and I appreciate it. And just so there is no confusion, a couple responses. The language is suggested language. So that is not something that Troy or I drafted. That is drafted by the legal experts who deal with municipal utilities. But the same vote has to be taken in 2 successive years. So the law dictates that this single vote in no way could create a municipal utility. But the language that's required there is the operative language. So while this single action does not create the municipal utility, this is the language that's required in order to take the first step to do so. So the final result, after a vote that may occur at the next city council meeting, would not be to create the utility.
Okay, and I trust you with that. So that was it. I just wanted to make sure the wording was correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Rodriguez.
I am good unless anybody has any other questions. I'm going to move to recommend this, Counselor. Well, let me move it and then you can do on the motion. No?
Okay. Go ahead.
Motion for
Motion to
favorable.
recommend favorably.
Second. And
On
on
the
the
motion. Thank you. Good evening to both of you. Thank you for being here. Of course, we need more explanation. And I went along, several years ago, I went along with the idea of our adopting a state law to turn the Board of Health into a health department, okay? I was with it wholeheartedly. We didn't have much information other than this will be better, and that's where it has sat for the last 2 years. And I can't do that again. So I'm with you tonight. But in this year coming, we need a lot of conversations, a lot of information filled in. I shouldn't just be talking to the CFO and the city solicitor. I don't think I should be talking to someone from the industry or someone who will give me the particular background that I need to understand the impacts of this on our community, what's in it for us, what will it cost us, how many people will we have to employ and all of that, okay? I understand where you're coming from, basically. I've read ARPA, but I need more to know what the impacts on Brockton will be and why this is a good idea.
Counselor, I wholly concur with that and absolutely think we all need a very detailed discussion about the pros and the cons and the costs. Rob May's office is currently directing a feasibility study that we hope will answer many of those questions. And I think it has just gone out to bid. So during and after that study is complete, we'll ask to come before you for several more discussions so that not only the council, but the community can have an understanding of what this would look like and what the costs and benefits would be.
Okay. I did some research, and I understand Milton, Quincy, and Weymouth are among the communities in the state who are considering this as well, cities and towns. And so I think we're where we should be, but we need a whole lot more information.
Agreed.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Council Lally?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I gotta say, I think, you know, I've done some looking into this in other municipalities, and I think this provides us a great opportunity to provide a new service to our constituents. Certainly something where I don't think there's enough competition now. I'm just, you know, I would have to echo my colleagues in saying that we're going to need, you know, as the council, in order to make this decision, and also because these meetings are recorded and sent out and viewed by the public, I think everybody's going to need a lot more information. You know, I get the whole idea, but you know, when you say, hey, there's a utility, that acquiring it would be a real benefit to the city. This is not the one I think of first. So I'd also like to just note that, you know, we are leaving another utility on the table that I think it would be prudent to review, at least in tandem with this discussion. But I am looking forward to finding out more about the costs, the implications, what the city will be able to do with it. Can we market this to other communities? You know, the scope. And I think you're absolutely right, Mr. Clarkson. I think we a very productive and very informative conversation once the feasibility study is completed. But I thank you for setting this up for us now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Clarkson, if everyone has spoken, the chair is a bit perplexed that we don't have information technology perhaps spearheading this as opposed to planning, but maybe if you have a paid consultant that knows exactly all of the ins and outs of what needs to be done, that will be okay. The one thing that I find interesting is that this is going to have to be approved by voters presumably at the November 2023 election in the city, am I correct?
I don't know where it came from.
Or would you have a special election, or?
I think the answer to that question it probably lies in our further exploration. So a specific timeline hasn't been identified yet, but it certainly, at the very, very early stages, is logical that it would be probably a year from now in November. But I think that's really dependent on the research and the discussions that we all have.
But that is a requirement, just so that we all know. It is
Most certainly is a requirement,
So we could
yes.
spend a lot of time and a lot of effort, and if it doesn't pass by a vote of the people, it would be for naught. And that brings up the issue that I really want to stress. I would put up a page immediately with information about why we might want to do this, the benefits, because we have people in this community who have reduced misinformation and the abuse of social media to an art form. And I can just imagine that there'll be people that will start off saying that this is the worst thing that could happen and it's going to cost millions and it should never be done, and we're going to be fighting that battle. So I'd like to get ahead of the curve as to the other communities that are doing it, the benefits of doing it, why it will help the average citizen, how it will help the average citizen, the fact that it won't cost anyone any more money, because I can just see it coming when I know that there's going to be a ballot question. And maybe I'm being too much of an alarmist, but I'll let my colleagues decide that. But I really would put up as much information as soon as possible and then go through as many edits as you need to keep this positively flowing out to the public. Because
I agree wholeheartedly, Mr. Chairman, that public information and engagement is critical. And in fact, I'll add to the list of the communities that Councilor Nicastro mentioned. Falmouth, where I live, recently took this very vote at town meeting just a couple weeks ago. And I think it made me think of it, Mr. Chairman, when you mentioned that, because there was a very active group of both local officials and citizens that championed the cause and really shared information. So I think there's some lessons to be learned from that that we can seek to do here.
Well, there is a motion to recommend favorably to the council. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? All those opposed? It is a vote. Thank you both. Item number 6.
Ordered that the city of Brockton does hereby take in fee in accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 79, and/or other applicable law, he following described parcel of land, to wit, 99 Warren Avenue, parcel ID 053-014. For further reference, see Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, Book 55385, page 81, in Book 27411, page 97, in 0 Highland Street, not numbered, parcel ID 053-015. Further reference, see Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, Book 55385, page 81, and Book 27411, page 97. We have considered and estimated the damages sustained by all persons who have not waived damages in their several estates, and hereby determine and award the same as follows: to be paid from the bond amounts previously authorized by the city council for purchase of or taking of property for public safety and general municipal purposes. Property owner, 99 Warren Ave in 0 Highland Street. Owner EZ Caching LLC. Said taken shall include all trees, soil, or fixtures thereon for $2,447,080. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, and Megan Bridges, City Solicitor.
Solicitor Bridges, you've done a lot of work on this, so if you want to start off, please do.
Thank you very much, and I'm excited to be here tonight with technically the 4th and 5th parcel that is part of the takings related to the public safety complex. 99 Warren Ave and 0 Highland Street are technically two different parcels, but they are both owned by the same person. And this is the final piece of the eminent domain portion of this part of the project. An appraisal was performed. The value represents what will be released in terms of damages by the owner. And I come before you on behalf of the mayor, asking for your vote of approval on the taking. Any questions that you have?
Councilor
I'm happy to
Monahan,
answer.
you filed this, so you would speak first if you want.
No, I think the process has proved out that everybody that we've had to deal with, they're happy to sell their property. There's nobody's been putting up a fight or anything. And I think, favorable vote tonight to move this forward is important. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening, Solicitor Bridges.
Good evening.
I'm just wondering about the tenants of this house.
So there was a recent event there that caused displacement of the tenants. So that is being handled with the mayor's staff, the housing court folks, folks in the community, in terms of making sure that the 20 or so people who called 99 Warren Ave home have a place to live. We have reached out to every person that we have contact information for. All the public safety officials were involved in the necessary boarding up of the building to prevent unauthorized access. So, and there will be further relocation efforts for the tenants. Outside of the public safety complex project, this parcel has been a source of blight for a very long time in the city. And one of the goals is that these folks who call 99 Warren Ave home will be able to move on to something that is better. And that is a benefit for them outside of what the city is going to get in the public safety complex, but that is certainly the high priority of this taking, the tenants.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Has there been a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, Madam Solicitor. I know just not directly on this point, but it's been about a year since we authorized the borrowing for the public safety complex, and we had these multiple properties purchased, and we also had the property on Summer Street purchased for the transition of our alternative schools. Is there any plan sometime shortly in the future for an update on the public safety complex, where we are in that design process and other, just kind of an update on the whole complex?
I would not speak for Troy, but I'm sure he's going to say that information will be available whenever you'd like it.
Okay.
The answer is yes, and in fact, there's a committee that meets regularly, attended regularly by the council president, and then we have a subcommittee that reviews the overall project budget, and that subcommittee met just last week, and one of the topics of discussion was planning an upcoming public meeting to update all of you and the public on the status of the design and the budget and all aspects of the project. So we do anticipate very soon, I don't know the exact date, but very soon there will be a public meeting scheduled.
And just sometime after the holiday season in January, or would you expect it prior to that?
I would suspect it would be after the holiday,
Okay.
just because of the busyness of the
Right.
season, but I don't know for sure. But we do have a meeting next week, and I'll try to get a date hammered down and share it with all of you.
I appreciate that. I'm really interested in the progress made on this complex, so I look forward to that meeting. Thank you, Mr. Clarkson. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Ianieri and then Councilor Azak.
Thank you. Madam Attorney,
Yes. Mr. Dean?
so, thank you for that. So the amount of money that's in front of us, which is $2,447,080, that's just for the one property of the,
It is for 99 Warren and 0
my
Highland.
secretary had to plug this in for me here. There
It
you
is
go.
for
Thank you.
the two parcels,
There's two partials,
correct.
but the first largest of is the, as I used to refer to as a tenement house, it's right there, the 3-floor, which was broken into apartments many, many moons ago.
Yes.
And then the other partial's on the other side, is that what I'm saying?
It's on the Highland Street side.
All behind it,
Right.
okay. So what's the total acreage of it all? Do we know?
Yes, I could tell you. The parcels themselves are not that big. It is an income property. That is partially what supports the value. It's a 40-room rooming house, and then I think there's 2 additional apartments there also. It's 43 units for 99 Warren. And the land is about not even a quarter of an acre on 99 Warren, and then 6,300 square feet on 0 Highland.
Really? That's interesting. You get some properties around the city where you get 2.5, 2.3, 2.6 acres of land, and they're out of sight, but, just interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Councilor Azak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, Councilor Ianieri touched a little bit on what my question is, and that's just, it seems like a lot of money for what the actual property is, and I know that building isn't in, I'm not a real estate assessor, and I'm not, but I know that that's a lot of money. How did we get to this? Is this the best number for Brockton?
This is the best number for Brockton. We used a certified real estate appraiser. We engaged in protracted negotiation, and a pro tanto payment in almost every instance will foreclose the possibility of litigation. Oftentimes, in these instances, 125% of the assessed value is the baseline for a taking price. That is because not every community can spend 11 months on this project, because that's how long it's been just on this. So to your point, that is sort of this magic number that's out there, 125% of the assessed value. This is a little bit over 125% of the assessed value. And that premium pays for the fact that we're not gonna have to litigate it. Like, maybe you're familiar with what's going on with the BRA right now in 93 Center Street. They're still litigating that. The lawyers that do this type of work and the experts that support this type of work, the cost supports the taking. the cost supports the taking.
Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Solicitor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
Yeah, just,
Counselor Ianieri again.
just to follow up, if I might, who owns the property right now? I know it was boarded up for a few years.
No, it was boarded up 2 Fridays ago.
What, the tenement house?
99 Warren Ave is a rooming house that has been very active and was most recently owned by Mr. Sherry. That loan and note was foreclosed on beginning in April of 2021. It is now owned by the lender, Easy Cashing LLC.
It just seems to me, I just recall it being vacant for a while because naturally, it's something that's always stuck out right at you when you had to stop at the light. I mean, there's nothing glorious about that intersection,
No,
period. To be
there's
truthful
not.
with you.
It was boarded up two Fridays ago because there was a sewerage situation on November 14th, Sunday, November 14th. The Board of Health was called there. I do not recall how many folks were evacuated, but it was approximately a dozen. And it has been deemed uninhabitable since that time. Prior to that time, there have been folks living there. It has been a rooming house.
It may not have been completely full, if there was some living there, but I mean, at one time it was fully some years ago, but not, I mean, there's been issues there, as everybody knows, and issues across the street as well, but I mean, still, it just gets me that the price just overwhelms that what we're doing here, that's all. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Counselor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Bridges, I think you had me until this last comment that you made about the Board of Health deeming the place uninheritable.
Because someone intentionally disconnected the sewer pipe.
But what I'm saying is that the place was foreclosed on a certain owner,
Yes, sir.
picked up by the holding company.
If I might just I think I know where you're going. The eminent domain value and the taking price is based on the highest and best use. The highest and best use.
If you don't mind, I see Mr. O'Donnell sitting right there, Mr. Chairman. Through you, can I ask Mr. O'Donnell a question?
Yes, he may be able to answer it.
Do you know what the assessed value of that property is?
Well, this is not the newest one, but I mean, this is the property card. I mean,
It's roughly around 1.8.
1.8.
Yeah. It was 1.6
They're paying
last year.
taxes on $1.8 million?
Yes. I can get you the information tomorrow morning, I mean, but
Yeah.
the exact, but it's roughly around there.
it is around there. And that's, in explaining to Counselor Azak, the condition of the property. I'm not standing up here to sell a bag of goods about the condition of the property whatsoever.
Could you make sure you're just close to the
Oh, yes,
microphone?
yes.
That's all, I'm sorry.
The condition of the property is, the appraisal is based on the highest and best use. The appraisal, by a certified appraiser was $1.85 million. 125% of that assessed value is somewhere between 1.1 and 1.2, or 2.1 and 2.2. The price in front of you is $159,000 over 125% of the assessed value. That's the exact figures. I have eat and slept 99 Warren Avenue for 11 months. The number represents the city receiving all of the taxes that are due from 2020 and 2021. And the number is $159,000 over 125% of the assessed value, which is what the law dictates as the baseline for the taking price in this friendly exchange. And so in terms of the premium, there is no desire to play any games with the numbers. It is a little bit more than 125% of the assessed value. What I'm saying to you that the city is getting from that is the management of a relocation plan for these tenants. It will cost more for the city, but these folks who've lived in blight for as long as I'm sure you can remember, are going to get a second chance at wherever they're going to go. I mean, that's part of what we're buying.
Paid for by whom?
Different variable funding sources. I mean, but
Paid
that's
for
part
by,
of the taking. I mean,
paid for by the city?
yes. And that's relocation. That's required under the law, under eminent domain.
But if the building is boarded up, and it got boarded up 2 weeks ago because it's not
They're not
livable,
You're right. They're not currently displaced because of the eminent domain taking.
why are we paying for somebody that basically, that the landlord has basically let the piece of property fall into disrepair, and the city's gonna be responsible for that?
My
It just,
understand-
it doesn't seem to be very
My
fair.
understanding is someone intentionally cut the sewer pipe. So the building falling into disrepair and someone intentionally doing something are two different things. But regardless, the city made a decision to determine the building unfit for human habitation. The city then has obligations for the folks who are displaced under that, just the habitability issue. The city has separate obligations for displacement for eminent domain.
Megan, with all due
What
respect,
we're here on right now is the taking and the price. I have the appraisal, if you'd like to look at it. I'm happy to go through it. I'm happy to explain it to anyone who has any questions about it.
I'm saying with all due respect, we just lost an apartment complex here in the city on Main Street, and 28 people got displaced. I don't see the city sticking up for them to try to find them a place to live. As a matter of fact, they're in La La Land looking to see whatever handouts they can get from the community. So now these individuals who are paying rent at a place get displaced because the property is not worthy of habitation in the sense.
Well, right
And
now-
the city is now going to be responsible for replacing those individuals?
Right now, the city's not paying for those folks. The landlord is paying for those folks. The landlord's paying a per diem for their food. The landlord's responsible for their housing. They're still the landlord's tenants at this time.
Well, see, that's what I have a problem with. I personally have a problem with the fact that if we're buying the property as is, once they deal with the landlord, with the tenant issue, they should be able to it's their building. They should be able to deal with the tenant issue. It should not be put on the city because we don't do that for anybody else.
No, but eminent domain takings, when you're taking an occupied building, you cannot take it vacant. Those folks.
But you haven't taken it yet. You will take it once we vote on this. You haven't taken it yet, to my knowledge. Therefore, you haven't taken it yet, and it's been closed for 2 weeks.
So let's play that scenario out then. Let's play that scenario out. So they get the pipe fixed, the folks come back in. If the city desires to move forward with the public safety complex and take the building,
Correct.
when the eminent domain vote ultimately happens, the city will still be responsible for the relocation efforts at that time, whether it's now or later.
But I don't see what the favor that this property owner is doing for the city, other than the fact that they're selling a property for around $2 million to the city. It's not like we're getting this great deal from these individuals.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm drawing a parallel between 93 Center Street and the eminent domain issues that the BRA.
I understand that, but the only problem I have is with the placement of the tenants, whatever that placement might be, because we have people in the city who are living in cars because the building burned, and the city hasn't lifted a finger to help them out. So now we've got a piece of property that we need to take that is not inheritable. People cannot physically live in it, and yet the city is going to go out and place these people in different places, God knows where. That's what I have a problem with.
Might I suggest a further conversation about the 28 folks who were displaced? I would love an opportunity to see what can be done for those people.
No, don't get me wrong, Mr. Chairman. I'm not saying that we should do anything for the 28 people. What I'm saying is that we're basically going to displace some people that have already been displaced. Because, did the mayor cut the pipes?
No, but we have legal obligations.
But I'm saying, did the mayor cut the pipes?
I
Any of the
certainly
city
hope not.
councilors
I don't
cut the
think so.
pipe?
I don't think so.
Counselor, if I could, because I had a tenant reach out to me, and without any exaggeration, she must have called me 25 times, and I probably called the solicitor 15 times. As I understand it, the issue here is how the eminent domain law is worded. If the people who are now displaced from 99 Warren Ave, if the owner of that building came back and fixed it up, put the sewer pipes back into operation, did everything that was necessary to make it habitable, and even some of those people came back. If there's 43 units, let's say 10 units became occupied, and we wanted that building, we would then have to find a place for them. We would have to pay for relocation costs and find a place for them. So in a terrible way, the fact that the building is vacant now actually is to our benefit. Am I correct?
We're taking their building.
There is still obligations on behalf of the city for the tenants.
Yeah.
There is some obligations relative to relocation because of eminent domain. There are obligations separate and apart from that for displacement because of declaring a building unfit and not allowing access. The city has obligations on both ends of the path.
Now, in the case of a fire, because I'm with Councilor Rodriguez, what happened to those people is terrible, but there isn't a legal requirement. I mean, we still have a human services person in the city, but there isn't a legal requirement that we relocate or find housing for those people, but we do it on a voluntary basis. Is that correct? But there's no legal requirement if your house burns down that we have to find a place for you?
No, and in this scenario, even in 99 Warren Ave, the tenants, some of them, I believe, 10 people, but it was 7 units, went to housing court to directly pursue their remedies against the landlord. And the city is not paying for that. We're not paying for that. And I've repeatedly told the landowner, at this moment, the tenants are your responsibility. But if he fixes it, then they become our responsibility. They still may be our responsibility whether he fixes it or he doesn't. So back to the basis for the taking price. It's the highest and best use for the parcel. Maybe not actually what's occurring there right now.
Last question, if it went to a trial, how long does it take for these eminent domain cases?
I mean, if I had a crystal ball, we'd all be rich. You know, I don't know what to say. I know 2018 was when the 93 Center Street occurred. And they're still fighting over the damages.
Councilors, we meet next Monday. If someone wants time to sit down with the solicitor and get information, you could easily postpone this to December 6th.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
all due respect, I think I had the floor. You interjected. I didn't finish what I wanted to do.
Please finish.
So I'm actually going to come back with this thing again and clearly state that I have a problem with this provision of space beyond the taking. And I think we owe it to the taxpayers and the citizens of this city to go back to this landlord and say, you've got a piece of property that dogs don't live in. Therefore, you need to come up with a plan to deal with the tenants that you have in there. Otherwise, I'm not going to vote for it. How's that?
I mean,
No matter what it is,
on the spot in a very unfair situation. I would love the opportunity to have a private conversation with you about, I mean, you know,
my whole thing is that I honestly, I've been working now for a month and a half with the folks that on Main Street to try to find these poor souls a place to go of a fire that they're doing. You know, there was a storm, the building caught fire and it burned down, and some of us are working hard to find these folks a place to live. And then you've got a piece of property in this city where a landlord, a holding company, lets the place fall into disrepair, and then decides to get a nice little settlement in negotiations with the city, losing absolutely nothing, because if the property is worth X, he's gonna get X plus $150,000, right? Because that's what you said over the asking.
2447.
Therefore, I think they owe us, in lieu of the issue that we have with the folks that we have on Main Street, he owes us an opportunity to basically handle the tenants that he has in a non-livable place that he has, to deal with that and come back and say, don't worry about it, I'll take care of the tenants.
Understood.
That's how I feel about it, and that's how I'm gonna, you know what? I'm not against this, I'm for this public safety thing, but you know what? Fair is fair. You know, you got a guy who's gonna get over $2 million for a piece of property that's not worth $2 million. And to a point where now you're gonna hold the city hostage that, you know, you gotta find, the city should be finding housing for those folks who lost their place on the fire. And they've got nothing to show for it.
I'd like
You know,
to-
since we can't do that, you know what, that's what we're gonna do, and it's one vote out of 10, you know, but that's how I'm gonna vote on it.
I respect your vote, and I would renew the opportunity to try and talk about the 28 people, if there's an opportunity.
No, I'm
I
talking
do
about,
not-
I'm talking about this building.
I understand,
Yeah, I'm
but you
talking
keep
about
bringing
this
them up.
building, and I think, again, my one vote is gonna vote against this project based on that one fact, that they should be able to, you've got a building that's been boarded up. The mayor didn't cut the pipes, the city council, none of us that I know of cut the pipes. Somebody did, God knows who. The building is not inheritable. People can't live in those buildings. And now they're displaced, and it's up to the landlord, this holding company. It's not even a city landlord that you can deal with. It's up to this holding company to find a place for these folks to live, not to the city. And if they can make that happen, then we have no problems. If they can't, then we got a problem.
In my heart, that's the message I'm conveying.
Okay.
That is the message I've conveyed.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor DeCastro.
Mr. Chair, to my colleague through you, that sounds really good, but in real life, this property is owned by a company that's out of state that ended up getting it out of a foreclosure auction. And they're not in the business of managing a business like this or taking care of tenants. These tenants, in my opinion, and I should tell you, I have talked with Solicitor Bridges about this from time to time for the last year. These tenants will fare better with the city intervening for them and helping them be relocated, in my opinion. I think, and I also think we're complying with the law under an eminent domain, and I also think we will do a better job of finding them somewhere, given the status of the current owner of the property. So I do think they will do better this way.
Counselor, I don't want to go back and forth. I'm just saying that I've stated my position, and I'm going to live by that position, because I'm working with these other folks that are being treated as animals that we're not doing a very good job with, and they're citizens of this city as well. So until such time, I'm going to hold this position, and again, I have one vote, you know, and that's how I'm going to vote for it. So I hope you understand that's how I feel about it.
I do. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion on the floor? Councilor Monahan.
Just one question.
I'm sorry?
Can I ask a question?
By all means.
I hate to bother. Under the law, eminent domain law, we are responsible for any tenants that we displace. Is that correct? So are we sort of just held hostage by that law?
Correct.
So we can negotiate, well, you can maybe make negotiations with the owner of the property, but if they don't want to budge, we're still going to be stuck with that.
If folks are displaced as the result of an eminent domain taking and there's 5 or more units, then relocation efforts have to be undertaken on behalf of the municipality doing the taking.
Okay. And I fully understand what my colleague, Councilor Rodriguez, is saying. I wish we could do something for those that have been displaced, not of their own problems. But anyway, all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I make a motion for a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Been a motion made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All those in favor? All those opposed? One opposed. I believe one opposed. All right. Number 7 has already been taken care of. Any councilor recognition? Councilor Azak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to tell everybody at home that Wednesday, December 8th at 6:30 p.m., there will be a Safe Streets community meeting at the Arnold School. This is a meeting which has happened regularly throughout the years, but due to COVID, you know, we weren't having them. But Safe Streets is put on by the DA's office with State Police and Brockton Police collaboration for the residents to meet and talk about safety in our community. So I hope to see everybody there. And on another note, Massasoit Community College is putting on a play Saturday, December 4th, and Sunday, December 5th at 1 PM, and the play is called World War II Christmas Radio Show, which sounds really cool. So, hope to see everybody there as well, and you do have to show proof of vaccinations if you do go to the play. Thank you.
Counselor Ianieri.
I just want to remind the ordinance committee that we have a meeting for Wednesday evening, this Wednesday evening, December 1st at 6:30 PM. So again, we'll take over where we had left off at our last meeting. So it's this Wednesday at 6:30 PM. Thank you.
All right, and we will have a FinCom meeting a week from today, but it'll be a light agenda. Any further business? Yes, Counsel Monahan.
Council meeting.
No.
Oh, FinCom. Okay.
FinCom meeting a week from today, December 6th. There being no further business, we are adjourned.